Yeah, my name is Jim Hallbeisen, and this is my opinion.
This week on the Growers Mineral Podcast, we're going to be talking with Jerry Stutzman. If you hop on I-44 from St. Louis and head to Springfield, Missouri, I think you get off at the Lebanon exit. There's a couple exits. There's a Route 32 that you can jump off on, and that might be the Lebanon exit. I don't recall right now, but that's how you get to Jerry's. And I've initially worked with Jerry over in Kentucky, and then we've gone over into Missouri, and that's where Jerry takes up residence now. And so I just want to let Jerry introduce himself, talk a little bit about what he's doing as a farmer. When I first met him, he did a lot of row cropping, and now he's got a little bit more pasture. He's still not big in the cattle business because he's a little concerned about when to jump into that, as a lot of guys are right now. But he'll tell you a little bit about himself, and there's a couple topics that I like to focus with Jerry because he's got very good experience with these particular topics. And then he'll talk about the people he's working with Growers Mineral Solutions. So, Jerry, why don't you just take off and talk about where you're at? Give everybody a little bit of your history so they know who you are and where you're at.
Yeah, Jim. Well, I do appreciate you bringing me into the podcast. I am, like Jim said, I used to grow commercial chickens for about 15 years, and along with that, I did row cropping and had a lot of exposure to the ag industry. So my journey has not been the normal conventional farming, if you will, like Jim can attest to, because I think outside the box half the time. And so my learning curve has been, Jim has taught me a lot. We'll put it that way. Jim has brought me a long ways. I picked his brain, and, the first meeting I went to, a growers meeting, he sat down and took the time to give me a thorough education, and that's where I got my foundation started. So appreciated that, and it's going from there. Currently, I am in Missouri, and I guess, to be honest with you, I like the growers program. It works very well. Their calcium is a key part of the factor. It is responsible for cell division. It's responsible for moving nutrients into the plants. And without enough calcium in your soil, you might as well throw the books at it because you won't get very far. So coming back to calcium, that is one of the foundational things we need. But my research has led me to this new I would say the new kid on the block, which is called biochar. So currently I've got a lot of energy diverted into that. I actually manufacture biochar, and we couple that with using growers. So biochar equates into fixed carbon, if you will. And fixed carbon in our soil is a foundational building blocks and will revolutionize the way we look at farming, if you will. So, that kind of gives a backdrop of where I'm at. So, Jim, have you got any questions for me?
Yeah. When we're talking about this, before we jump into the Growers Mineral Solutions, and the clientele that you work with, this calcium thing, Jerry's been hammering away on me about a product called aragonite. Now, we've known about aragonite for many, many, many years. We have a very good district manager in South Carolina, Terry Norris, who's been on our podcast, that has a source of aragonite that his farmers work with, and they're very, very pleased with it. But as with everything else, when you have good products, there's always knockoffs. And Jerry's been on the search for something that is similar to aragonite, that he doesn't break the bank. In the area where Jerry's at now, they use a lot of just regular ground rock out of Springfield, Missouri. And this is a different product that they're bringing from offshore. And, there's always been the ideas about aragonite containing biological activity. It is a much softer calcium product, which again, it's in the carbonate form, but the way it's formed is a little bit different than the rock material that we use many times. And so its availability is supposedly much, much better. But again, you start talking significant cost. But Jerry has kind of messed around with the aragonite and has some experience with it. So, Jerry, kind of talk to the guys about this aragonite factor and what you see.
Yeah, so Jim, on the aragonite, we call it, our brochures actually put it out as a living calcium. So the Bohemian government down in the Bahamas has actually put a patent on this stuff, so it cannot be over-harvested. It regrows. It's created just like a pearl via nutrition and electrolysis charge, which means it's produced by living organisms and a negative charge capacity, and it grows daily. So it's not something that if we use it in a way that is not over-harvested, it will continue to grow for years on end. It's not something that we deplete. But like Jim was saying, the porosity of it is 190,000 to 210,000 is the porosity of it, whereas most of the other ground rock that we have is between 40 and 50,000 porosity, and it's all positive charge. This is a negative charge. It's the same charge that an earthworm leaves in his castings when he goes through the soil. So therefore, the availability is immediately there. So our availability does not crash. When we get these crops into stress situations where they're into reproductive set, we don't see this calcium crash in the sap analysis. So that's what we like about it. Now, Jim did jaw a little bit about the massive amount of biology. So we have over 200 million plus minus of ocean bacteria, along with 40% available calcium. We got 47.5% oxygen, and surprisingly enough, we've got 270 plus minus units of nitrifying bacteria per ton. That leaves us with a clean plant available nitrate. So does our calcium source matter? Yes, it does. There's knockoffs in it. These are pirates that try to get into that. They go out along the ocean, but often you will find that they use shell flour to complete the aragonite composition, which is not a pure aragonite. Therefore, it's not as good. The product itself is inexpensive, if you will. It's not astronomical in cost for what it does. The shipping is what gets us. So we're working on shipping costs to get it down via barge, trying to find better ports to dump it so we don't have near as much shipping in it. So, does that answer your questions, Jim?
Yeah, no, that's very good, Jerry. I want to kind of hop in here a little bit for you guys that are classically trained in chemistry, as I was. Jerry talks about the negative charge on the calcium and versus the regular rock is positively charged. When you look at oxidation numbers of elements and how the electrons leave the orbitals, seeing negatively charged calcium is not really mainstream conventional chemistry. But see, again, we're biologically looking at it. And again, I've farmed long enough to know that this biology is really a key issue. So you guys that are classically trained, don't get scared off by that, because that's really not the key thing here. It's the usage of it. And Jerry's got a lot of experience with that, blending it also with the biochar. Just chat a little bit about biochar, Jerry, so that you can kind of show your experience with that before we take off with the Grower's Mineral Solution product.
So when we go into biochar, that's a subject that's a lot of misunderstanding and probably very little. It's just not out there to where people actually understand it. So you have at the moment, there's not a great quantity of high-grade biochar available or people that understand it. So the biggest thing that we say, biochar can be made from any source that you can imagine. It can be made from a good wood source or human excrement, and it can still be called biochar. So the first thing we need to look at is what source is your biochar derived from? And then the next question is we need to ask what amount of temperature is it processed under? If you have under 800 degrees, you wind up with a lot of organic volatiles that are not fully extracted from the product, if you will. And therefore, we see some negativity in the market. They're cheaper by a long shot. They're probably half price of what the high-grade biochar is. And people say, oh, well, it's got 70-some% carbon, and I'll just throw another time as much on there. What you don't realize is the rest of the stuff that's in there inhibits the performance of it significantly. So we're not only looking at the percentage of carbon, if you will. We're also looking at the higher grade stuff will be 85% and higher. We're also looking at how it's been extracted. It is the best is when it's extracted in a negative environment, which is a negative pressure. Therefore, we can completely burn, if you will, the whole piece without actually burning the piece because it cannot burn on a flame, but these chips get completely red-orange to where you can almost see through them and get a full extraction out of it. And then as this drops into the exit chamber, we steam activate it, and therefore the pores are completely open, ready to go to work. To do that kind of a biochar, it's just going to be expensive, but your results will be phenomenal. Results is something that I don't necessarily just chat to everybody about because the results are phenomenal, and people probably won't believe me until they use it correctly and actually see the results for themselves. I've had a lot of customers who tried to take me to task and tried to tell them how to use it, put it in the worst part of their field, and they'll be coming back and going, it wound up being the best part of my field this year. I cannot believe that. I've never seen anything like it. Well, that's correct, because we try to introduce biology with that biochar, and you have a tremendous catalyst to produce crops. It doesn't matter if we're row cropping, whatever. So, yeah.
No, very good, Jerry. See, what we're trying to tell our audience is this is a biological feed. It'll add some structure to the soil too, but we're looking for results here. And the thing about the biochar is that outside of agriculture, they're looking at ways to get rid of these waste products at the human level. Actually, there's a notice that came out today on Ag Clips. Lee Zeldin, the new head of EPA, is saying that they're going to be going after this PFAS that's ending up in drinking water. And see, Jerry, with his biochar machine, is going to be able to attack this, and that's going to be something that everybody is going to be looking at. You've got municipalities looking at biochar as a way to clean up some of these water sources that they're trying to work with at this point, and then disposable waste. So, Jerry, what I'd like you to do now is let's head.
Can I insert one more thing, Jim? So if you think this is agriculture only in biochar, it is agriculture, but it goes into animal nutrition as well. It's a huge animal nutrition as far as cleaning up their systems and getting rid of a lot of the diseases we have in our hands to completely nutshell the chicken houses, the dairy farms, anything that you're battling with. Biochar does really help. And that will change industry. So, yeah.
No, definitely. Definitely. So where I want to head now is the Growers Mineral Solutions, and we were chatting about some of your clientele, and you were chatting about an individual that was having some very nice success. So talk a little bit about your Growers Mineral Solution clientele for us.
So, so we'll start with a couple of them. I've got a greenhouse grower that has in Carbondale, Illinois. Going back to the foundations, he fogs in his greenhouse. He's partial hydroponic, growing in grow pots. The foundation of that grow pot is a high quality compost, adding biochar and aragonite. But then he's coming back and foliar feeding about once a week with growers. He's got 2,500 plants in there. And I think if I remember correctly, he's using about a quart to half a gallon of growers per week to spray his crop with. And by getting his foundations right in that and using the growers, we have doubled the shelf life on his tomatoes. And his production has probably more than doubled from where he has started. So it just goes to show you the nutrition level. Heirloom tomatoes have a shelf life of a week, whereas they used to, if they did good, they got 3 days out of it. So now the store owners are telling me that they're getting 7 days out of it. So that's a significant increase. And I was there about 3 weeks ago. He had his plants hanging. I'm going to guess he had probably 10 pounds of tomatoes hanging on those plants a piece, and he was still setting blooms and keeping that thing just hopping right along. So proper plant nutrition, putting the foundations in place and coming behind with the growers is a key factor to getting your results significantly high. So he's very pleased with that.
Yeah, get that quality up there. And you livestock guys out there, that's a big factor, man. You start getting high quality forage for those ruminant animals, those cattle prices will really start coming home to you.
That's right. Yes, that's for sure. So the growers in itself, we use only growers nutrition along with a C90 salt. To do our sheep, we've got some over 200 head of sheep that we grow, run, and they will. That's the only mineral that they get. So I would say that's a pretty solid mineral, if you will. So that's what we.
Are you lambing these? Are you lambing these sheep?
Yes,
Jerry?
That's correct. Yes.
How's that been going for you?
That's been growing quite well.
Excellent.
We've been having good results with that. Just a year-round crop of lambs. Just selling into the market, finding our niche market has been a little bit of a challenge, but I think we're getting there. So that has been very helpful to us. So yeah.
So in your own operation, you got pasture, you follow your feeding pastures. What kind of numbers will you recommend the guys that want to follow your feed pasture? Because that's a big question I'm getting now from the cattle industry. As these cattle are taking off, guys just want to get the nutrition up in that pasture.
So I would say if I would like to see a minimum of 5 gallons per acre a year. I would strongly recommend you put some calcium out there with it first, and then if you got an access to a good carbon source to mix with your growers, I would definitely do that as well. Mix it in with your growers and spray it together. Because remember, carbon is a source of all life. If you don't have carbon, you don't have life. So the growers have some carbon in it. But I think we can help ourselves by adding some with it, and it tremendously boosts what you're seeing in nutrition-wise. Because remember, all your pasture ground is what you got growing on top. You actually have as much underneath in your root system. And the root system is what's feeding. These plants are talking to you. So the top part needs carbon as well as the bottom part. So what I've been seeing in my pasture, Jim, is we see a lot of clover coming back in by adding our calcium. And, the guys ask me, well, did you plant clover? No, I didn't. It's just native species that come back.
That's right.
Treat your pasture properly, and you will see those native species come back. We've got a seed bank in there that can, you manage your pasture correctly, add some growers. We've taken, when we first got here, we had sage grass all across the farm, and I went out there and I put some liquid calcium out there and come back and sprayed growers. You would have thought I'd taken a chemical sprayer out and killed all the sage grass. It just shriveled up and died. And people ask me how I did that. I said, well, you got to get your calcium and your phosphorus up. It'll just die. It can't survive. So that's been very helpful to the guys around here.
Yeah. See, the thing about that is mainstream would say that's impossible, but as we see what's happening in botany biology and the rhizophagy discussion, that makes perfect sense. This is how plants have survived for millions of years and have adapted to certain areas. And then when you get the proper environment for the symbiosis between the plant and the microbes, that you can totally change the species and bring on species that'll give you better nutrition, for the animal itself. One last thing on that, Jerry. What timing when you spray pasture do you like to see? I tell guys, get started, end of April, 1st of May, and then maybe make a second spray early June. But I'd like to see a fall spray also. What's your approach on that?
Yes, Jim, I think you're very much correct. I agree with that 100%. Fall approach, what you do in the fall will determine a lot of impact, will have a big impact on what you have to come in the next spring. I was sitting in meetings and they laughed at me to spray wheat after it was up in the fall, December. If I hit a 60-degree day, why not spray it? And they laughed at me. They said that's a waste of money. Oh, yeah. And running tests side by side, me and my brother farmed together. There was a 10-bushel difference just by spraying wheat in the fall, and that's the way it is in the pasture. End of August, sometime in the end of August, and even on into the later into the fall is good. But end of August, definitely things start to slow down, but you can really produce your production for the next year if you get a spray in August. If you can forward that and get some time to get it done, I think that's a very helpful time to help your pasture get turned around.
I agree 100%, Jerry. All crops are that way. Permanent crops that have to go through the dormancy period, I think any nutrition at that point enlivens the plant. They feed the biology. So that's one thing that a lot of people forget about. When you spray that plant, the plant doesn't necessarily use all of that nutrition. So what the plant will do is translocate it to the root zone and feed the microbes. And the way it does that is through the tech-grade phos that we use in the growers. Very similar to the way Roundup works, only they're trying to kill things, we're trying to nourish things.
That's correct, Jim. The biggest discussion I have with fruit growers is, well, you can't spray that tree. It doesn't take anything. And the first thing I ask them is, well, you think I can spray it with Roundup and kill that tree? Well, yeah. I said, well, this is the same tech grade phos. It works. Go spray that bark and you'll feed it. So, So, yeah.
We've seen that in the orchard industry where guys were killing the grass around the base of the tree, and some of them got that Roundup on the tree. It gave them significant problems. So again, that pretty well concurs what we've been talking about. So is there any last point you'd like to make, Jerry, before I shut you off?
No, I just, if you got any questions on anything, my business number is 417-991. Now I went blank. Just a minute. 9622. I'm sorry. I didn't. I don't call it myself very often. So 417-991-9622. And we'll chat a little bit more. But yeah, Jim, well, thanks for the time to have me on.
Did a fine job, Jerry. I really appreciate it. You take care.
Okay, thank you.
This podcast has been brought to you by Growers Mineral. Please visit growersmineral.com.